Welcome back, one and all. Here we are once again with Johnnie Torch Live, our 68th broadcast. We're going to broadcast this one live. So if you are listening as we are recording it, thank you for joining us. And hopefully you find your way here after it's been recorded, because usually not too many people hear the show live, at least not anymore. But if you listen to the show at any time, God love you for being there. As always, I am your host, your humble servant, Johnnie Torch, here high above in Torch Tower, looking over the fair metropolis below. And how are you? Thank you for joining us. As I said, this is a lovely April afternoon, April 11th. A lot of guys doing podcasts like to say the date. I don't particularly know why. The podcasts become kind of dated after the first couple of weeks anyway. Nobody's going to go back and listen to most of these stories because it'll be old news at that point. But Johnnie Torch Live number 68. We're not going to answer questions 67 and 68, but we do have Torch News Roundup number 85. 85th Roundup, we're going to do all the news that's fit for public consumption and maybe some that isn't fit for public consumption. But take a look in the description below for the links to my Twitter page. Sometimes you can find poll of the week questions there. Don't have one up right now, but whenever the muse strikes me, and not Jason Muse, that's his name. No, but whenever the muse strikes me, there's a poll question up there. And I encourage you, of course, to check out my website, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. You'll find all the details there on this epic, soon-to-be award-winning series on my website. There in the link in the description below. Hard at work now to get the 5th issue out. Takes a long time when you're doing it by yourself. So buy a couple of books and maybe I can afford to hire people. Okay, so without any further ado, we got a jam-packed show today. It's as usual. It's always jam-packed, but we get a little of the preliminary stuff out of the way. A couple of minutes before 5. I figure if you're going to tune in, maybe you'll tune in at the top of the hour. And so we do a little greeting, a little meet and greet there at the beginning. And now we get into the stories of the day. Like I said last time we did a Torch News Roundup, the news is not exactly plentiful at this point in the year because the summer movies are going to be out. There's no real, rush on the studio's part to put out trailers or substantive info on other upcoming movies like Captain Marvel, Shazam, other stuff. We just see photos leaking in, trickling in on the internet. We've got some of that, too, coming up right now with, we'll start with this story here. We have some leaked set photos. I don't know if they were purposely leaked or not, but of the Titans series that is going to be on Warner Brothers streaming service that I believe is not, it does not have a name yet at this point, but it's going to be, I think, DC-oriented, if I remember correctly. And materials such as the upcoming Metropolis show that's supposed to be a prequel, of course, which is all the rage, I guess, these days in superhero television, but a prequel series to Superman winding up in Metropolis. This is going to be covering Lois Lane and Lex Luthor in their pre-Man of Steel days. Not that it's going to necessarily have anything to do with the movie Man of Steel, but I mean, before Superman shows up. All right, so taking a look at this, I don't even have any notes for this. I'm just going to tell you off the top of my head what I think. This looks pretty bad. Pretty bad, I'm afraid to say. This, of course, is supposed to be Starfire from Titans, which, of course, as we know, they already had made known they were going to cast this actress, a black actress, to play Starfire. And it kind of gave some people pause. Because were they going to try to do a comic-accurate version where she's going to look orange and with red hair? So you got the red hair down, but apparently they are not going to make her orange. Surprise, surprise. We had some kind of inkling that they were going to do that because some people said, well, they wouldn't have chosen a black actress if they were going to, change her skin color, but she was supposed to be playing an alien, so most of us kind of hoped at least that they were going to, you know, use makeup to make it look orange. Because a lot of people were on the fence and complaining that, well, Starfire isn't black, but it doesn't matter what her race is as long as the actress's race, as long as they make her orange with makeup or special effects of some kind. And apparently, of course, for the sake of the almighty diversity, they're not going to, make her look like an alien and change her skin tone through makeup. This is not unheard of course. I mean, Zoe Saldana, of course, playing Gamora with green makeup. So this should not really be something too difficult. I mean, going so far as back as the green women on Star Trek. They always, you portray an alien woman. It doesn't matter what the race is. Ula was portrayed by a black actress, and of course she was green. So this is disappointing that they didn't even try to make her look like the Starfire of the comics. Of course, in the comics, the costuming of Starfire is sort of provocative, to say the least, and I think they are trying to pay homage to that a little bit with this purple get up here, which is not really all that flattering looking, but so they're trying. It's very disappointing in that this show has a lot of set photos have come out where the costuming looks very impressive, to say the least, such as Robin, which I don't know if it's been confirmed which Robin that is. It might be the Tim Drake version because he has the staff, or of course they might have just given that to Dick Grayson. They also revealed the costuming for Hawk and Dove, which looks very impressive as if they step right from the page, all three of them. So that's why this is very disappointing that they are seeming to stray very far from the reservation in this respect. I am not entirely surprised. I am disappointed. I would have hoped that Starfire would look like Starfire and that at least they would put the makeup on her to make her look orange. But unfortunately, it ain't going to be the case. We also have, let's see, another image surfaced of Raven and Beast Boy, also very popular members of the Teen Titans. Yeah. So, again, Beast Boy's got the green hair, which is not very impressive either. I mean, it looks like he's got like a cap on. You can tell that the sides of his head don't look green. That the hair on the side of his head is dark. It's not very convincing. They don't have any green skin on him as well. He doesn't have the elf ears, which I could lose those and it wouldn't really be a heartbreaker. But the jacket looks very good. As far as Raven's concerned, I'm not too familiar with Raven. I never really liked the character. She's just like Wednesday Addams and just sort of moody looking and acting. And she looks pretty much what I was expecting. No problems there. I mean, if they give her an actual costume with the hood and everything, which I imagine we'll get later, I'll be very satisfied with that. But as it goes, that's pretty much what I expected from her, and so I'm not disappointed. Beast Boy, wish he had the green skin. Don't understand why not. I imagine Beast Boy's face is supposed to be somewhat furry. And so that's another thing. I didn't really think they were going to do, make his face furry and sort of what you have with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was supposed to have like fur on his face, and when they translated the character in X2, and subsequently in Age of Apocalypse, or what was it just called, Apocalypse? They didn't go with the furry look. They just had the blue paint, the face paint, to make him look mutated, otherworldly and like a mutant. And that was okay. I didn't really have a problem with that. So if they didn't want to make Beast Boy's face furry and make him just with a different color skin, that would have been fine. But again, they're dropping the ball here. They're not really making it look as accurate as we were promised, because this looked to be the most accurate costuming of any DC property, really. I mean, they stepped straight from the pages. Here, not so much. I think part of the problem is, like I said, with the Starfire problem, it's diversity, which, again, there is no problem with adding diversity. In a show called Titans, which, of course, is a extrapolation of Teen Titans, they could very easily have used Cyborg, but chances are they didn't want to use Cyborg because he's involved in the Justice League, which I'm of two minds of that. I mean, I think Cyborg's place is really on Teen Titans because he's like a core member of that team. He's not necessarily on Justice League, but I liked him in the movie Justice League, and I also liked having the character involved as the diversity pick for Justice League, because I don't really want to see Jon Stewart on the Justice League ahead of Hal Jordan. Of course, if if we're on Justice League Part 8 or something like that, and things have developed and moved on and stuff, okay, Jon Stewart's taking over this sector. But I've always been adamant that you don't start with Jon Stewart. You don't start with Wally West. You don't start with Jason Todd. You always start with Dick Grayson. You always start with Barry Allen. You always start with Hal Jordan. And so that's why I was satisfied with Cyborg and Justice League, because they weren't going to then hammer Jon Stewart into a peg that was, shaped for Hal Jordan. So, it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, it's just the SJW thing where everybody's diversity crazy, and it's like, well, we can't make Starfire look like Starfire because there has to be a black person on the show. And, that's fine, but the fact is, you could have gotten another black character. I'm sure there is enough in the DC lore to have filled that capacity. I don't know what to think about the show now, but, I don't know when the show is going to be released. I don't know when it's debuting, but we may see some changes cosmetically here before the show actually airs. Some people have suggested maybe they're incognito and they're not trying to gather attention to themselves. Kind of don't think that's the case when you have one person with green hair, one person with purple hair, and Starfire looking like she's looking for work. I don't know. So just to go back to put it politely, to go back to what we were saying a minute ago about Jason Todd, a little other information has trickled out about the name episode titles that are coming up. One of them is called Doom Patrol, which is, I covered that before in one of the news roundups. But interestingly, another episode is called Jason Todd, which will either deal with his story, maybe in flashback. Maybe it'll deal with the emergence of the Red Hood. Some people are suggesting maybe Batman might be involved. Apparently, there was a casting call for an actor that will fit the description of Ra's al Ghul. Some people are saying maybe Ra's al Ghul will be in the show, which would be interesting because that would make him 3 television shows in now on, I think he might have even guest starred on Legends of Tomorrow. So he's been in 4 DC TV shows, and you can't put Cyborg in this show. Just for clarification, he started on Arrow, Ra's. Then, like I said, I think an appearance in Legends. They have their own Ra's al Ghul on Gotham, and on this show, that would make it 4 shows. And you're going to complain that Cyborg is in Justice League as well as being in Titans, because as I understand it, they're not going to be linked up in any way. They're both independent of each other. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like the look of these characters? Do you think they fit what you were hoping for, given what we were anticipating with the other photos that we got, the other set pictures, the professionally studio taken set pictures of Robin and Hawk and Dove? Let me know in the comments below, and hopefully we'll get something more about this in the future. Okay, next up, our next story. Seeing as though we were just talking about a moment ago, we were talking about Arrow and some exciting news. A surprise to be sure, but a pleasant one. Colton Haynes is officially returning to Arrow as a season regular for season 7. So I had always hoped that Roy would be brought back. And it appears to me that we don't know yet that he's going to be back as Arsenal. But after the way they wrote him out of the show with Thea, this kind of gives pause as to what happens. Is there a falling out now that with Thea, now that he's coming back? Does Thea get killed? Kind of a strange send off to send them both off and then have him come back. But apparently Colton Haynes suffers from anxiety and panic attacks and so forth, which I can totally sympathize with. So that's what led him to leave the show in the first place. So I was always hoping he'd find his way back to the show. And coming back now is strange because, like I said, I really wanted to see those two characters together. I don't really ship anybody in the CW verse. Everybody's got a ship, but the only relationship that I felt really worked on any of these shows was probably the Thea and Roy relationship. And that was cut short because Colton wanted to leave the series, and it was a very convoluted way that he left too, because he took the fall for the Arrow, then the Arrow died, and then Green Arrow emerged, who looked just like Arrow, but he was a different person. Very convoluted. The show really lost its way after he left, or about the time he left. Colton Haynes said, "I could not be happier to return to my role as Roy Harper alongside my Arrow family. And we are glad to have you back, Colton." So yeah, what do you think this means for the relationship between Thea and Roy? They just got back together finally. Thea and Roy went off with Nyssa, and they are supposedly going to try to find Lazarus pits and I guess put them out of commission. But now Roy is coming back, and I'm excited for it. Are you excited for it? Let me know in the comments below. All right, our next story we have here, a lot of DC news. We got some more news in the DCEU. We have a new writer for the upcoming Batgirl movie. Apparently, they are fast-tracking Batgirl, and they intend on getting that movie done soon. Christina Hodson has been brought on to write the script. She completed a script for the Birds of Prey movie that is also being shopped around. Reportedly, it is to star Harley Quinn and features Batgirl. So they probably want to get the Batgirl movie off the ground first before they do the Birds of Prey movie that's going to include Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and whoever's going to play Batgirl. They probably will spin her into that. I never heard of this actress. They have some credentials here. The B, I don't know, whatever it is. But let me know what you think. Are you excited for the Batgirl movie? I am. I've been saying that all along, that I would love to see Batgirl done as Batgirl was supposed to be done, as a fun, devil-may-care crime fighter, without doing the killing joke, without her being paralyzed and oracleized. I understand the appeal of that story as, someone overcoming adversity and, obstacles that everybody in real life has to face. That is horrible, but still, you completely destroyed the character of Batgirl with that one story, and I hate it. I hate that story. I don't want the killing joke whatsoever in the DCEU. But if you have a different opinion, let me know. Let me know in the comments below, and we will talk about it. I haven't been able to read any viewer comments in a while because nobody's given me any. So don't be afraid to put your opinions in the comments below, and we'll talk about them. All right, so next up, we have one more bit of business here from the DCEU. We've got the story here of Aquaman's release date for the film is apparently being pushed up by a week. The rumor has it that this is only for the UK, although a lot of people are saying that this is going to eventually make its way into the U.S. and they're going to move the film up. Um, I don't really know that it has any competition in December, so I don't really know why. I would hope that it would get moved up, further, that we don't have to wait all the way to December. But I guess they've got it all set with how much time they're going to need for effects and scoring and so forth. So apparently, until further notice, in America, the release date is still December 21st, although in the UK, it will be moved up to December 14th. That means here in the US, we still have to wait an extra week to see Amber Heard as Mira. Okay, so let me know what you think about that. Do you want to see Aquaman released any earlier? I would say release it in October. What's its competition going to be? Venom? I guess maybe that would be too much competition. They want to find a spot for probably where there's not a lot going against it, and there's no Disney movie this year in that slot. There's no Star Wars movie, at least. And so, speaking of Star Wars, let us get straight to it now. Let us get to that solo Star Wars story trailer review. Let's take a look at it. I can't put the actual video of it up, which a lot of people do, and I wish I could do that and not get flagged or something, but okay, so let's see. As usual, I culled a bunch of images from the trailer for you here. Now, we'll start with this one. This is fairly early on. To start with, I thought the music was horrible. Well, at least that's what it says here in my notes. When I originally saw the trailer for the first time, that's what I jotted down. I didn't like it. Having seen it 5 or 6 times now, I'm a little bit warming up to the music. A lot of people are saying, oh, the music was so good. The music was so good. It just didn't seem to suit a Star Wars movie to me. It sounded like, hillbilly theme or something. But I did kind of dig when it starts breaking into the Eye of the Tiger sound, So I don't know. It kind of wore itself on me. I kind of came around to it, so not too bad. We see a shipyard building a Star Destroyer, which is pretty interesting. Similar shots of tribal warriors. I don't know what that's going to be all about. I'm trying to stay away from spoilers. I heard a couple things about what that might be, but nothing solid. We have Emilia Clarke saying, you're after something, money, revenge, or something else. This kind of tries to put a question in the viewer's mind of what is actually Han's motivation here, because he really can't have a character arc, because that's all what A New Hope was all about. This is sort of him just learning and finding his way in the world, so it'll be interesting to see what they do that makes him have a motivation of what he's after. And this picture here, I think he gives a very Ford-esque look. That looks similar. Of course, it doesn't look as good as a frozen image as it did when he did it in live action, but I think that's a pretty solid estimation of a Harrison Ford mannerism. I thought that was pretty effective on his part, and I think he's done a reasonably good job. As I said, it's a very difficult tightrope to walk. You don't want to be appearing to, being a caricature, but at the same time, you want to still have the characteristics enough where you can feel that this is the same character. I feel like it's the same character so far. Most of the scenes that he does early in this film, especially, at least in the trailer, seem very Ford-esque. There's a few scenes at the end where I was kind of, I don't know, but as of now, yeah, at the beginning of this trailer especially. And then we have Paul Bettany. Let's take a look at his character. That's kind of like the next thing we see. Paul Bettany looks like he got his face caught in a waffle iron. But I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and make a prediction here. I think that, well, Woody Harrelson describes him as a big shot gangster. Apparently, he's a big shot gangster. I was going to suggest that maybe the reason why his path crosses with Han Solo is that, Han Solo's the one that scrambles his face. And I think that would be consistent with EU stories where Han got into, like, for lack of a better term, drag racing, and he scrambled Dengar. You know, the character from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but just sort of a background character. And he's like covered in bandages and sort of a, husky armor. I was going to suggest that that's what happens to him here, and he ends up becoming Dengar in the future. But that probably is not the case for two reasons. For one reason, apparently, this guy is a big shot gangster, and that doesn't really fit the narrative of Dengar being a sort of low-level bounty hunter. And the other reason is, of course, basically carrying on from that, Dengar is a background character. If this guy is a big shot in the first movie and then is relegated to, background character status in the subsequent films, that's not going to work. So they might be using the same idea that he gets scrambled by Han Solo, but he probably isn't Dengar. So that would have been interesting, though. That would have been interesting. Han Solo says, I'm a driver and I'm a flyer. That's interesting. The way he puts that there, the way he puts it, that he's a driver as well. Never really thought of that on Han's resume. He gets the legendary blaster. Now, I like the way they're treating this, where Woody Harrelson gives him the blaster, and it's treated like Obi-Wan giving Luke the lightsaber. It's like, this is Han's, Excalibur. This is his weapon of choice that, he seems to care for it very greatly in the saga. If you remember, like, in Return of the Jedi, when he picks it up off the ground, he doesn't, like, just take a random blaster. He takes that one back. And it seems like there's some kind of emotional attachment for him with it. So I thought that was pretty nice. We got this other image here. I thought this was really good. This line where this was another time where I felt it was very Ford-esque, where he asks Chewbacca, what do you think? And Chewie says something negative, and he goes, well, what do you? And this is apparently probably pretty early in their relationship, where he doesn't come to trust Chewie's opinion as strongly. So that was pretty funny. I like the way he gives the line too. It's very Ford-esque, and I thought it was really, really good. Again, like I said, I am not going to just tell people what they want to hear. I know a lot of people hate Lucasfilm and Disney, what they've done with Star Wars, with a passion. And I share that feeling. I think the saga films are horrible. The sequel trilogy so far has been horrible. But I am not going to sit here and just say what you want to hear. I'm not just going to say that it's terrible just because Disney's making it. They made Rogue One, and Rogue One's not a masterpiece by any means, but it does feel like it fits in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. It does feel like a companion piece. And from what I'm seeing of this, it feels like a companion piece. And I think that's where Disney / Lucasfilm should put all their efforts, trying to fit the pieces in between movies where they actually have a framework that they can work from and say, what do we do from what we know about Han Solo to make a Han Solo movie? What do we do about Obi-Wan Kenobi that we know to make an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie? Because apparently that has failed in the sequel trilogy. They cannot make a sequel trilogy film thinking, what are we going to do about Luke Skywalker, seeing as how what we know of him in the original trilogy? They haven't been able to do that. They couldn't do that, thanks to Rian Johnson, but it just is not working. So I suggest that they stick with these intermovie films, prequel-esque intermovie films. All right, so next up we have, we'll talk more about the degradation of Star Wars. We get to our Mark Hamill segment at the end of the show, right after this episode, after this segment. We got Lando Calrissian. I like the way these aliens look too, as a matter of fact, because I get the feeling this is something like what George Lucas wanted in A New Hope. it looks very much a blend of sort of guys in masks and more ambitious creatures. You got the two-headed thing there on the middle of the thing there near Lando. You get the creature with the big eye up there, the guy in the space suit, the creature in the space suit. We got a Reese right there. I don't know what his species is. I don't remember that stuff anymore. But you get this cricket-looking creature, which is sort of like Mark Hamill said was in the original Star Wars cantina. We've got a guy in the back there that looks like Khan with his mask on. It's just it feels very Star Wars authentic to me. I don't know if that everybody feels that way. And we've got the costuming of Lando also, as I said before, that looks pretty good. That sort of blouse or whatever. Amelia Clark says he's the best smuggler around. That was something that was a little problematic to me because I never saw Lando as a smuggler. He's a gambler. He's a con man. But smuggler is not really what I would say is his forte. Now, perhaps he's pulling a con here and trying to pass himself off as a smuggler. There's a lot of explanations there could be. If they were to put that on his resume that he was known pretty much first and foremost as a smuggler, I would say that doesn't really fit in with what we've established with Lando. He's not, he's not really a get his hands dirty type guy. He's more of a trying to fit the pieces with a minimum of fuss. You know what I mean? Not that he's not capable of action and so forth. What I mean is he's smarter than Han Solo, basically. Not in an intelligence way, but in a way of getting around an issue. He'll con his way out of it where, Han Solo would rather just blast his way out of it, at least at this point in both of their careers. So this is the famous Sabbath game. Han Solo comes in and says, I heard a story, I wonder if it's true. And he says, everything you've heard about me is true. Lando says, I think Glover has very good mannerisms. The way he sort of cocks his head is very Billy D-esque. And, the sort of subtle nods and stuff. He's not really overselling the way Billy D carried himself in the role. The delivery of lines is a little difficult for me to really feel that it's very Lando-ish because Billy D had such a unique delivery. And I pretty much compare it to Chris Pine doing William Shatner because you have to be very careful because Billy D and William Shatner, Billy D is like Shatner-esque. He's got a very interesting cadence to his delivery of lines. He doesn't just say it as you would normally say a line. He doesn't seem like he's reading it off a page. He seems like he's had it in his mind that he's mulled over and it's coming out in a certain way. And it's kind of interesting that both actors, I think, are going to be challenged. Chris Pine already having been challenged, of course, but I think Donald Glover is going to be challenged in the same way as how to deliver lines that sound like Billy D said them, but without trying to, put too much English on it and make it a caricature of, Billy D. Williams. All right, so let's see. We've got. All right, let me get another image up here. Oh, wow. This is taking a long time to get this image up. Okay. Alrighty. All right, first, let me get this one up, this image out here. We've got this droid here. We see a little bit of her. I guess it's her. L3, I think is her name. And she's bashing some alien's head against the wall, and that's where we get one of the lines from Lando where he says something along the lines of put the mean man's head down or something. And this is pretty cool because Lando sort of like is in need of a co-pilot, like a sidekick, the way Han has Chewie, but he doesn't really have one because when you think of it, like in the Return of the Jedi, he has Nine Numb, and in The Empire Strikes Back, he has Lobot. So he kind of needed somebody to sort of, sidekick him. I don't know how to make that a blur, but And I think this droid is supposedly going to do the trick. I don't know. I don't see this droid surviving past this movie, to be totally honest with you. If they do a Han Solo 2, which a lot of people are probably figuring they won't, I would like to see a Han Solo 2 because I think there's so much to cover in this. We're promised the Sabbath game, the meeting with Lando, the mentorship under, I don't know what the character's name is, I forgot, the meeting of Chewbacca, the winning of the Falcon, and we still don't know if we're going to see Jabba the Hutt. I would love to see Jabba the Hutt in this, but we'll get to that in a little while. All right, now we get to Woody Harrelson again, and he has some important lines here, which are pretty interesting. Let me see. He says, get this image up first. All right. He says, if you come with us in this life, you're in this, what does he say? If you come with us, you're in this life for good. So this is basically Han is going to, become a wanted man, basically, from the Empire. He's not going to be, able to show his face unless it's, in the seedy dives and cantinas and bars and stuff. And of course, the other important line he says is, let me give you some advice. Assume everyone will betray you and you'll never be disappointed. Which is, really words to live by, because I kind of feel that way myself. You don't put too much stock in anybody, and then you can't be shocked when they don't live up to your expectations. So I don't know if that's really something too, too villainous. But I do think that's sort of subtly setting up to betray him, to betray Han. Is that kind of what they're going with that? That seems to be too easy. I really wouldn't like that if that happens, because I think in the original treatment of Empire Strikes Back, when Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote this script with his son, was working on the Empire script with Lucas, they said that basically there was a contentious relationship between Han and his mentor, this father figure, and that Han sort of disappointed him and went his own way without sort of regard for the feelings of this mentor character. So I would hope that that's the way they're going to continue on that story, and not just make it that he's just another double crosser that's going to break Han's heart and, oh, it's so sad, poor Han. I don't really see that really in Han's emotional baggage. I don't see him as being callous because he was betrayed. I just see him as like callous because that's the lifestyle he's had to lead. It's interesting. Like I said, a lot of characters are going to die. It would be interesting if they kept him alive, if they kept Woody Harrelson's character alive, because I would like to see that kind of progression and see what would happen if you went back to him in some future movie. And it would be interesting to see if they're going to kill off Emilia Clarke, because we've also got an interesting situation where is it going to be another sort of like a young Sherlock Holmes. Remember that movie? That's one of my favorite movies. But young Sherlock Holmes, where Elizabeth died, and we're supposed to be led to believe that that's sort of the impetus for why Sherlock was a bachelor or a woman hater, if you will. He came across as a woman hater, but they tried to like put it across that he was basically a confirmed bachelor because his true love was killed. And I'm kind of hoping that they don't go for the death here of Emilia Clarke's character, because, again, then that kind of puts her in a martyred position where she's sort of the saintly lost love of Han, and that's how he becomes callous and just is a womanizer until he meets Princess Leia and she makes an honest man out of him, so to speak. I don't think that's the way to go either. So we get the very famous train sequence there that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, a train shootout. The tribal people apparently are there, and there's some Imperial-looking people. This was interesting. I really like this. Mala is apparently in this movie, and confirmation, the holiday special is canon, because we've got Mala, apparently Chewie's wife, going to be in this one. No word yet if Lumpy is in it or Itchy, but I don't know. Apparently he's kissing Mala goodbye here. I never really liked the idea that Chewie was an absentee father and husband, to be totally honest with you. I always thought these guys were two bachelors that were out there to, whoop it up and, hoot and howl. I didn't really think that Chewie had a wife and child back at home waiting for him, but maybe that's what they're going for because the holiday special is canon. As much as we may not like it, I think everything in live action is considered canon. Well, there you go. This was another fun moment. I really liked this scene where, let's see, this line of dialogue especially, where we have, Han finally at the controls of the Millennium Falcon, and he says, I've got a good feeling about this. I got a really good feeling about this. This is, flipping the expectation on its head. And the thing is, with this is, I think this would have made a great stand-up and cheer moment. I think they showed too much in this trailer. Let me say that right now. This and the next scene, which we're going to get to in a minute, this should have been saved for the movie. I think the scene of what was another scene that we just saw that I was going to say that was too. I think maybe the mentor betraying line might have been what I was thinking of. But anyway, either way you look at it, I think they showed too much because. But the problem is, and you see, the problem is they're having to deal with the recurring disappointment that The Last Jedi put souring people on Star Wars. So they have to use all the good stuff and say in the promo material, look, this is fun. This is Star Wars the way you remember it. This is Han Solo acting the way Han Solo acted. This is not going to be grumpy, grouchy old Han Solo, grumpy, grouchy old Luke Skywalker. This is going to be the Han Solo that was a lot of fun. That was with Chewbacca trading quips. And, he was cool behind the Millennium Falcon console. It's understandable that they're doing this, but I kind of wished they would have saved some surprises. Maybe they have some more surprises that are going to be crowd pleaser moments, but I think these would have been some good ones to save. And before we wrap it up here, there's a couple more images here that are cool. Good to go. I was supposed to say this other line first, I think, because it doesn't match this picture. But there's a TIE fighter shootout, and Han says, since when do you know how to fly? And Chewie apparently tells him he's 190 years old, and Han says, you look great. So that was pretty funny, and that was another move that I would have saved for the movie. And that was another scene that probably would have paid off well in the movie, because we all know that at the time of A New Hope, Chewbacca is 200 years old. And that does also place this film 10 years before A New Hope, so they do have a lot of playroom that they could spend, in the world of young Han Solo, should they make this a trilogy. Which, like I said, I wish they would, flesh it out, make it a whole trilogy. That would be fun. But yeah, so we find out especially that confirmation that Chewie is not the one that raises Han, because, like I said, in the original treatment of George Lucas, Han is an orphan raised on the Wookiee planet of Kashyyyk, and he is sort of childhood friends with Chewbacca, who of course is older than him, but he's sort of a caretaker of Han. And I kind of like that version better than just him meeting him on the way somewhere and then, becoming best buddies and life debt and all that weird stuff. All right, so let's get to this picture here. So, it's very. This is back on the train. This is a very Bucky-esque scene where he's on the train and it's snowing and he's gonna fall off, and it also looks like Chewie is. It reminded me of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where they don't have much time because the train is coming precariously close to a boulder that's going to smash Chewie's face. And look at him with those goggles. That's kind of, he wore goggles, I think, in Empire, didn't he? Well, he didn't wear them. He just placed them in front of his face. But I guess it's a very interesting look on a Wookiee. I don't know. But will Chewie make it? Will he make it? Or will Chewie fall to his doom or be smashed on the rocks on the side of the cliff? That's the most important question this movie's got to answer. Will Chewie make it? Wait, what? Yeah, This is a prequel. Yeah, I think Chewie's going to make it. But I'm glad they put that in anyway. It shows a nice action beat and this and that. And of course, we got the conspiracy theorists who are saying this might not be Chewbacca. Very weird. Chew on that one. Talk about Chewie. But they say maybe this is, a brother of Chewie and a twin brother of Chewie, I guess, and is also named Chewie, and he calls him Chewie. But I don't know. It's very confusing. But I mean, I'm pretty sure this is just an action scene that they're trying to, convince the audience there's going to be a lot of action, which of course you want to hear. But again, I don't think anybody's going to be. See, a lot of people are very skeptical and I don't know, not jaded, but they're very sort of I'm forgetting the word, but basically a combination of sarcastic and jaded, where they're not convinced on prequels because they know that the character isn't going to die. I always thought, of course, that the character or characters that are the main characters that will be in the subsequent films. But I don't really think that that's a legitimate complaint, because I mean, when you see a James Bond movie, you don't think, oh, this is the movie where James Bond's going to die. You know he's going to live out to the end. And it's the same thing with anything, Batman. I mean, you don't watch a Batman film thinking this is the film Batman's going to fail. He's not going to save Gotham City, and whoever it is going to take over. No, that's not the way it works. You kind of know that the hero's going to win at the end of the day. The only drama there is to unfold is, how is the hero going to do it? How is the hero going to overcome the adversity? How is the hero going to rise to the occasion? And that's basically what we find out in every movie. So it's just as interesting to find out here how Han and Chewie are going to save the day. All right, so let me know what you think. This is melee ensues. Then there's Amelia Clark hurling grenades and stuff, and L3 is saying, I'm glad we joined this crew or something. But I have to say, at the beginning of the trailer, I was very blasé about it. I was like, oh, the same beats. We see the tribal warriors. We see him in the shipyard. We see him, driving a speedster around. And then when the second half kicked in, I was pretty impressed by it. I thought it was really exciting, with a lot of nods that feel legit in the from the original trilogy, from the relationship between Han and Chewie. It felt legit, and I'm hoping it's going to be good. Like I said, I'm not going to just boycott everything that Lucasfilm does just because they've made a couple of, and I almost swore, crap movies in episode 7 and 8. And I realize some people like episode 7 and 8, but the quality is just not up there. Episode 7 was not up there. It was a rehash. A lot of people don't want to hear that. Rey was a Mary Sue. A lot of people don't want to hear that. But it was passable entertainment. The problem is that they don't know how to write Luke Skywalker. And before I get on my soapbox with that, let us turn our attention now to Luke Skywalker himself, as we continue on with a segment that we like to call Mark Hamill Chronicles, where he continues to give interviews about Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and has thinly veiled comments that he is pretty disgusted with the current state of Star Wars. All right, now I've got a very clickbaity topic title up, and this is the image I'm going to use for the video. And the title is Despondent Mark Hamill, I Don't Care Anymore, about Star Wars. And that comes from, and now that's, I admit right off the bat, it's clickbaity because, everybody and their brother is doing these Mark Hamill videos, and everybody and their brother is getting great views on them. And I'd be a fool not to, play to the audience. Particularly when I feel the same way as Mark Hamill is here. And he describes, basically for the past 6 months, he's described the way that a lot of us, I'm not going to speak for all of us, but a lot of us feel about the current state of Star Wars. And I was giving an interview, and his comments were regarding the death of Carrie Fisher, of course. he said, rather than be sorry that we can't have more of her, I'm just grateful that we had the time with her that we did. It really has tarnished my ability to enjoy it to its fullest. He means working on the sequel trilogy. You were asking earlier, are you going to come back? I don't care anymore on that level because Han Solo is gone, Luke is gone, and you just can't get the band back together the way you wanted it to following Carrie's passing. So this is pretty much what I said all along, and that's the reason why Episode 7 failed as well, because Harrison Ford came back for a contractually obligated death, and J.J. Abrams and the powers that be could not fathom a way to put Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, the star of the franchise, into that first movie. And so you kill off Han Solo without him ever having a scene with Luke Skywalker. It's criminal. It's unheard of. And it's disappointing. And now that Carrie Fisher's dead, you can't really have a scene with her either because you got your one scene with her in The Last Jedi. There is nothing to build on. There is no emotional resonance for these characters anymore. Luke Skywalker comes back. What is he going to come back for? Why would Mark Hamill come back to that role? What has he got left to do that's left undone? Does he give one big Shakespearean soliloquy the way Alec Guinness did, or, well, monologue because he's in front of Luke when he was doing this? I don't know. I guess that's all he's back for. He certainly can't do anything other than just, give a couple sage words of wisdom and then disappear back into the ether of the Force. But why would he want to come back and do that? Why? I respect Mark Hamill if he says, no, I'm done. Because you gave me crap and tried to make me make chicken salad with it. And, 2 strikes and you're out. I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They gave him crap to do in the first movie. They gave him double crap to do in the second movie. So why would I come back for the third movie if I was him? I would say I'm done. I would say that's it. And I don't care anymore either. I don't care what's going to happen in Episode 9. I really don't. Like I said, a lot of people, criticize the supporting characters because, we got Rey's and Mary Sue. She defeated Kylo Ren twice. She defeated him physically in the first movie without any training. She defeated him the second movie mentally, basically. And then you have Finn, who is, I don't know, not all that interesting. Poe, who's even less interesting. You got Rose Tico, and we're supposed to pull for a romance between her and Finn. I mean, is that what I'm going to see Episode 9 for? Would it have been much more impressive had we had Han, Luke, and Leia in the third movie? Of course, a cruel fate has prevented Carrie Fisher from being in this third sequel trilogy film. So, something would have had to be done in that case too. But all the more you would have hoped to see Luke Skywalker still alive and Han Solo still alive. And maybe Han going to his reward knowing that his princess was waiting for him in the netherworld of the Force. That would have been a beautiful ending to his story. And he would have passed on, probably very Robin Hood-esque. And, of course, Luke Skywalker would have also probably have passed on at the end of this to join his, his family in the Force. I would have loved to have seen the three of them the same way we saw Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda at the end of Jedi. We could have seen Han, Luke, and Leia. I mean, who's to say that even though Han wasn't a Jedi, that he couldn't have had his identity retained in the Force? That could have been something that maybe they would have helped him do. Because, according to what you read, that was sort of how Anakin was allowed to remain in the Force, because it was something that needed to be learned, a technique that needed to be learned. But Obi-Wan and Yoda sort of pulled him out of that netherworld of the Force to retain his identity. And the same thing probably could have been done with Han Solo. But either way you look at it, so yeah, they blew their only chance to have Han, Luke, and Leia in the same film. Harrison wanted nothing else to do with Han Solo, so he gave him a proper death and sent him off. And so Harrison's done. Mark Hamill is, Carrie Fisher, of course, passed on tragically. Mark Hamill is just left to be the only one now to carry the football. And do you want to see Luke Skywalker on the big screen one more time? well, there's nothing in it for him anymore. There's nothing in it for me anymore. There's nothing in it for a multitude of fans anymore. So, like I said, and it would have broken my heart to say this, years ago. If Mark Hamill doesn't want to be in episode 9, I don't care. I don't care. I respect him. I would say, hey, if I was him, I wouldn't want to do it either. It's almost like sort of it reminds me of like Star Trek Generations, where I think they originally wanted the whole cast to be in that film, but it was just going to be a walk-on role. And at the end of the movie, Kirk, dies helping Picard. And, Leonard Nimoy was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And, DeForest Kelley was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Because you want to have something of substance. And he had nothing of substance in the first movie. They promised him something of substance in the second movie, and it turned out to be crap. Then comes the third movie, and he's going to have just another cameo without any substance. And, how many times are you going to drag Luke Skywalker through the mud in the sequel trilogy? The hero of millions, I might even say billions of kids growing up in the 80s, including myself, and you're just dragging him through the mud. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. And I feel so bad for Mark Hamill because you can see he is disillusioned. He's disillusioned with this now. He was promised a good, exciting sequel trilogy where he would reprise the role that made him a household name that, like I said, was an inspiration to millions, if not billions. And now everybody is just like soured on Star Wars. Everyone's soured on the sequel trilogy, at least. Because some like me are willing to give things like Solo a shot, Obi-Wan solo movie a shot. If they can do something like that. But I don't know. If he wants to pack it in, I would respect it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with Mark Hamill that you just don't care anymore about what they do with episode 9? The fun is gone. The thrill is gone, like B.B. King would say. And we're just left with the memories of the old trilogy. Just, that's the only enjoyable memories we can have of Luke Skywalker. And the big three, as it were, is the original trilogy. I told you before, I don't want to get on my soapbox again, but they just don't have a clue. They put Rian Johnson in charge. The man did not have a clue about Star Wars, and they put him in charge of a Star Wars movie. Who did he have to graft in order to get that movie? I don't understand it. What's going on here? He was paid up with the right people, I guess. I don't know. But, J.J. Abrams didn't know what to do with Luke Skywalker. He couldn't figure out a way to put the star of Star Wars in a Star Wars movie. You got Rian Johnson that had his head so far in the grass he didn't know how to make a Luke Skywalker act like Luke Skywalker. It's just, as I said before, when The Force Awakens came out, I said, basically, the original trilogy is The Godfather, the gold standard, one of the greatest of all time. Prequel trilogies like The Godfather Part 2, worthy sequel, gets into the history of the characters, but a little dense and kind of, you have to dig in a little bit deeper. It's not as superficially pleasing until you really want to, get down into the nitty-gritty of it. And the sequel trilogy will be like The Godfather Part 3, which is the original characters not acting as you wanted to see them act. The new characters are not satisfactory, and it's just disappointing on all fronts. So, sorry to end on such a on such a dismal note there, but there's really little more we can say here. And hey, I'm going to keep doing these videos. I'm going to keep doing the videos about Mark Hamill, saying the truth, as we all agree that are just completely disillusioned with where the Star Wars franchise has fallen at this point from its level of greatness. Say what you want about the prequels. The prequels are still solid. There's nothing solid about the sequel trilogy. It is very, and not only, with its SJW leanings and, all that stuff that nobody can deny they put into it, but it's just an affront to the original characters, to the original, not only the original 3, but like I said, he couldn't figure out how to put C-3PO in a reunion scene with Mark Hamill. And wouldn't that be the first thing you think if you're sitting down writing a Star Wars movie? These characters haven't seen each other in a long time. How are they going to react to each other? 3PO and Luke, and R2 and Luke, and Chewbacca and Luke. And what do we get? It's just, I don't know. It's just underwhelming. And, you have to be, you have to be very forgiving to find, redemption in these movies. If you were looking forward to them as long as I was, it's harder to find anything redemptive in these movies to say this was worth waiting 30 years for, 30 years plus. All right, so that about does it. That wraps it up for Torch News Roundup number 85. Let me know what you think in the comments below about anything and everything we've been discussing. If you have, any thoughts on a story you want me to cover. I didn't get a chance to talk about Stan Lee. God bless Stan Lee. It sounds like he's, having trouble in his golden years, unfortunately, with designing people, trying to take advantage of them. That was a very sad story. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so sad. But they're apparently selling this blood to make comics. And they did stuff like that with Kiss in the 70s as a promotion, to make headlines and stuff. But they're literally selling his blood to fans. And they show him in line at conventions just signing things like monotonely. It's just very sad to see where it's fallen on him for him, but I'll keep him in my prayers, and I hope you all do the same. But maybe we'll talk about that on the next edition. I don't really want to, but just keep staying in your prayers. All right, so that's it for our 68th broadcast. Be sure to leave a like, hopefully subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave a comment and share, because we want the word getting out on Johnny Torch Live broadcasts. And of course, I'm starting to think about branching out. You want to see me do a crossover with somebody, invite a guest over or be a guest on somebody else's show. I really wasn't up for that because when people were asking me if they wanted me to cross over with them, I didn't feel that I was ready because I was just starting out in the broadcasting, industry here. But maybe I should broadcast, some crossovers with you people. And if you're interested, let me know. We'll see what happens. All right. And so until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, may the force be with you always.